Okay, now we come to my favorite part of transporting and my biggest joy that I've had doing this because of my son Alan. He told me about a car that was developed by Honda sort of as an emergency measure. And you see this car, we're going to talk about a Toad, T-O-A-D. The cutest license plate I ever saw was somebody with a tow car that had a license plate said, "I just go where I'm towed." This is a Toad. It tows behind an RV or a truck or whatever, because if that piece of junk breaks down, you got someplace to get cool or warm or get the heck away from it, that you're not stuck with the vehicle. And I've been stuck several times with vehicles. In 1995, Honda wanted to get into the mini market. With minivans. So they took an Accord frame and running gear and motor and put this van body on it. Now you see it's got doors just like a car. So they didn't do much change from an Accord. If you think about it cut off, at back cut off, it's just an Accord. Well, in 96 and 7 they beefed up the suspension and the motor so it would handle a little bit of extra weight and the extra people that people were going to carry. But the mistake that Honda made at the time was they put the transmission in there and motor, and when they did that, they actually put in a transmission, well, number one, a motor that's a little 4-cylinder industrial motor. I'll show it to you. Now, if you keep oil, it's awful dirty. I wish I'd have washed it first. You have to live with it. If you keep oil and water in this motor, they damn near cannot be killed. The transmission, which is right in here, they put with this a automatic standard transmission. Oh, and there's a Honda dealer right across the street. Figure that. Anyway, what I mean by that is there's no computer. If you look down in here, there's just a few speed sensors to check when to shift and how it's doing. So the pump for that transmission is in front of the front axles. So if that car is rolling down the road, the transmission is getting lubricated just like it's running. American cars, the pump is behind that front axle, between the motor and the transmission. So if the motor is not running, the front axle is not getting lubricated. Now, you can tow this car in accessory and in neutral down the road, and I have towed these things more than 1,000,000 miles. This is my 5th one. Now, I started out with LXs, which are the basic model. It didn't work. You got to go with an EX, which is their luxury model. You'll know because they have a sunroof. A lot of times they're roof racks. This one doesn't have a roof rack, unfortunately. Anyway, doesn't matter. You want to go with the EX, and I'll show you why just a little bit later. There's all kinds of little extras that are going to come in handy. This car, every part of this car has been designed by me to work as a tool. So we'll go to the tow bar later. I'm hooked up to this RV here. And we'll go to that later because it's going to take a minute because I invented it. We take a look inside. Here's where the hairy fat boy sits. It's a bus, it's a car, it's full to the brim with junk. As you look over in the passenger seat, which is still there, under there is a printer. Up above is my favorite hat, my medication. Down here, we're going to see an extra deep cycle battery and a jump box and some wiring stuff. I'll show you that a little bit later. Here is my mess in between the seats, and you'll notice everything in this car inside is covered with a black sheet from Walmart. Okay? So let's go to the back door. There's your black sheet covering everything. And the reason for that is you'll come out of the truck stops and there'll be people leaning over your car looking in the window to see what you've got in there. and I gotta believe it's to rob you. So I cover everything with a black sheet, so they look in, they can't see anything. Plus I've blacked out. The windows are just jet black, barely see through them. Okay, so underneath this sheet, I have my clean and dirty clothes and my laundry bag, which is a necessity. Back here is all DVDs for movies. I've got maybe 200 movies available. Hats up there. My shark rod is here. My Spanish mackerel rods are back there. My Indian drum is there. I do Indian storytelling. Okay, so under here is a bed. See the plywood? Here's my tools. Here's my hitches and all the iron to hook onto a truck that you see up front. That's all the iron. And we'll go to the back and show you the bed. Now, you can't sleep in your vehicle in Canada unless it's a DOT approved bed. So, if you buy the LX Hondas, the lower model, that up front is a bench seat. This one has two captain's chairs. Here's one of them, still remains in there. I take out that captain's chair there, and I take out the back seat, which leaves you a great big hole underneath your bed to store. These are all tools, wiring, a tow rope, just anything you want under there. And that piece of plywood runs all the way to that back seat. So this bed is 7'5" long. It's 36 inches wide and it's 36 inches high to sit up. It passes Canadian DOT for a sleeper berth. Okay? So, like I said, everything remains covered. I have a fold-up bicycle, which you need that for exercise. You always carry a full spare. Don't ever carry a baloney spare. When you get into the Mojave Desert or the Chocolate Deserts or Chocolate Mountains, and it's 120 degrees, that baloney spare is going to go about 2 miles and blow out. You have to have a full spare and a rim that matches the car. These are Spanish mackerel fishing rods and my knives and stuff. And under there, like I said, is tools, my jacks, and everything are on this side. But if you look up here in the ceiling, I hope you can see this, I have a flat screen TV with a DVD, and I put a Wii game hooked up to it, so in case I get bored, or I have company. So you can lay in this bed and watch TV with the 200 plus movies that I have. Under here is all clothing and extra drop cloths and winter clothing. So on the right hand side, winter clothing. On the left hand side is an extra gas tank. There's a fuel pump in there, a DC fuel pump with hoses to siphon if you need to. Real quickly, this is the front door. And like I said, here's your printer, scanner, copier, fax, satellite link up top. And the bottom is your jump box. Is your jump box and a spare battery down in here. And tape is there. My medication is here. Everything is covered and you cannot see it from the outside of the car. This is another one of my inventions. They're called butterfly wings. Very simple, they're just on round rods. They slide on to protect the headlights from stones coming up from big trucks. Now this piece here, this piece will cost you $189. That piece is $80, this piece is $15. It's iron, so you do the math. I've got a high intensity fog light, combination fog light and work light that will smoke your retinas for all those idiots that are out there that will not dim their lights, or they have those xenon lights and they refuse to dim them. That's what I have those for. I have one in the back also for people who run up behind you with their bright lights on, and you can turn that on. Now, I'm an inventor. So this piece here is welded right to the frame. And I'll give you the address of the manufacturer of this. They're Mennonites out in Wakarusa, Indiana. And anything you can imagine in iron, they can build. I have a trailer hitch on the front, the same as the back, so I can push boats or anything else, drive them in instead of trying to back them up. This is my invention for a tow bar, and you can see it's plenty heavy, but I've got more than 1 million miles on this tow bar, and it's still just like brand new. So you see right here, this triangular piece, the V, all of this comes apart with these machine bolts and the pins for security. So each one of these pieces come apart, and I have 4 different ends for here, from a pintle ring to a 2-inch ball, 1 7/8. This is mine too, anything painted red. So I painted it so I didn't forget it, leave it on the vehicle, because I ended up leaving trailer hitches on. If I paint them red, I remember to take them off. So each piece, like this long post, if you have a truck with a work platform back here, a 4-foot work platform, you can put a longer pipe in there and stretch that car back another 2 feet so you don't run into it. Also, this ring right here, that short ring to the chain, if anything happens here and that car wants to go underneath this truck or unit, which is done to me on twice, it'll eat the front end of that car when you put on the brakes and that car slams into the back end of the truck or RV. Plus it'll do damage on your vehicle that you're trying to move. I paint it all camouflage brown so that it doesn't draw your attention when you first see it. Other than that, the cops stop you. And I've run with this straight up and down, I'll show you that later, and every state but Wyoming stopped me and made me take it apart. But other than that, I've run it for at least 12 years, just like that, and that's the same hitch, a different setup on the car, but it's the same exact, this part is exactly the same. So she's my baby. I get usually 500,000 miles out of it before somebody does something stupid to me, like put the front end together wrong, or make sure the rings, the locking rings in the CV joints, they weren't correct, they were broken when the guy put them in. It ate the transmission up. A little word on the transmission, it's an automatic standard transmission. There's no computer, there's no brains to it. It just does by RPM, and there is no filters on that transmission. So it has a screen, a small screen in the fluid line, but that's it. It doesn't have any filters. So as long as you don't change that oil or do something to add metal flakes in the system, that transmission is going to last you for 500,000 miles or better. I've gotten 600,000 out of it. And that's more than half of that has been towing the damn vehicle. Also on the EX, you'll get aluminum wheels and not the steel ones. I'm a big fan of the aluminum wheels. They're just tougher. I also, as you look underneath, have airbags. There's my lights. I have airbags in the suspension to keep the car, mostly to keep the tires straight up and down, but to keep the car from squatting in the ass end. Because as you pull into the truck stops, people will watch out for tourists at the ass end of their car is squatting, and they know that they're carrying a bunch of junk. Let me quickly go over the wiring with you. The wiring to the car for towing is completely separate from the car. Starts here, goes back under the hood, down along the side, and up into the roof back here. But these lights, here's your running lights, here's your running lights here, and I added these 2 lights here so that you can see the car at night, because those little ones don't show up as well as I'd like them to. But all of this wiring is totally separate. Let me show you. This wiring is totally separate from the car. So you see it here, it comes along the roof right here and out into here. It got nothing to do with the car. So when you plug it in, if anything happens to the truck, shorts out, or the wires short out, you don't burn your car up.